Well, somebody better grab me a bowl and a big jug of milk because that ball is cinnamon toast crunched. It is out of here. Kerry Carpenter, Detroit Tigers. See you later. Household name Kerry Carpenter, now going down in Detroit, Michigan lore. It was historical. The timing of it was magical for some, heartbreaking for my father from the Cleveland area. Guys, it's playoffs. It's playoff time. Division series is in full effect on episode 97 of the Talkin' Chop podcast. Full disclosure, Coach Chop will be in late today. He's running a baseball camp, changing lives. Flick Money is in the house. How are you, my brother with a beard?
Coach, beard salute. Happy October. It's playoff time. Congratulations on an incredible September tour. I know you're going to do some recap. We'll talk about the good people in North Carolina. Send in my thoughts and prayers with them. And Kerry Carpenter hit the biggest left-handed home run since your pal, my hero, Kurt Gibson, in 1984. Uh, my college teammate and friend AJ Hinch is the manager of the Detroit Tigers. I mean, this is what you live for. You play all those games, you work all those years, and it comes down to these moments. And no one told Tarek Skubal you're supposed to give up runs as a pitcher. Apparently,
Nobody,
he just
especially
forgot
in the
that memo.
playoffs. My
Whew.
gosh, this is what you call a tease in the biz nas. We are going to get down to business in the MLB playoff sitch. We may even chat about a little appetizer slash meal we had with AJ Hinch a couple months ago that was not a stepping stone, but a launching pad for the Detroit Tigers. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the Dodgers and Padres. We'll get into your questions. We have 5 questions set up from you. By the way, if you want to get better as a youth coach or parent, listen to this pod, share this pod, and send me some DMs on Instagram at Coach Ballgame. Send me your questions. By the way, me and this guy, Coach Flicky, this Sunday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. We're going live on Instagram. It's a Q&A. It's a trivia fest. It's a party. So get ready for that. It's going to be dialed in. Lots to recap on my end as well from North Carolina, but I want to jumpstart this thing with a quick hit, a quick question. Let's call this the batting practice of our podcast today. Hi, my daughter is 8 and pulled up to the 9U travel team. Excited for her, but the coaches are having the girls specialize in a primary position only. I, as the mom, feel strongly this is way too young to be specializing, ultimately might deter the players from loving the game, understanding the game, developing overall. If a girl doesn't want to play a certain position, then they can't play the rest of the game. They sit on the bench. Um, can you share your expertise? Great question to lead off today's pod. Your gut as you hear this, what do you got for us? The savant, Coach Flicky.
Oh, this one hurts a little bit. I am a girl dad. I know you are as well. You're a softball dad. It hurts that to hear an adult placing their vision, which largely, obviously, they want. It sounds like this coach, he or she, wants to put the girls in positions where the coach believes they would be best for winning games right now versus looking at the long term, playing the long game, and developing players. Uh, no one at 8 or 9 has a long term position yet. We can all recount the best little league pitcher in our area who ends up being a high school second baseman and then ends up playing left field in college if they get to play in college. You need to be a well rounded athlete and player. You need to learn the game from different angles. And you might be the best shortstop within 100 square miles of your high school, but as soon as that you get to the level where that tryout goes to 101 miles away, the biggest, baddest puppy from that area is going to come over and take your job. And then what can you do? So it's critically important that they develop other skills. Now, how to deal with this situation, coach, because it sounds like the coach is not receptive. So we have a philosophical difference. So how do we address a philosophical difference if the coach is not receptive to what we're saying?
Yikes. And this can be a tough situation. I don't know that I have the perfect answer for the non-receptive coach. Great job, Flick Money, on just generally speaking, for their overall love of the game, understanding of the game, gives them a better chance to succeed when it starts to really matter down the road, middle school, high school, college. They need to be a well-rounded athlete, need to know all the different positions. Um, for this particular case, part of me wants to say run for the hills. Go find, be very picky, and go find a coach that lines up with your philosophy, which is a good one. It is big picture, play the long game. Um, I think you can be picky. There are enough teams out there, there are enough great coaches out there for you to go attend a practice, attend a game, watch this coach, and if everything feels warm, fuzzy, and awesome, then jump into that. If it's a case where there is zero options out there other than this one, where do you go, Flick Money?
Yeah. Um, well, then we have to do what we've been talking about a lot on this pod, which is adulting 101. One of my least favorite but most important parts of being an adult is going to adults, looking them in the eye and saying, I really need to have a sit down conversation with you. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can I buy you an O'Doul's after work? And let's sit down, let's chop it up, and I want to hear what you're thinking. I want to hear your ideas, and I want to share with you why I think this big picture, long game, love of the game is important. And let's see if we can maybe find a middle ground. Maybe it's not that they rotate every inning to a new position, which is kind of how I like to do it at that age, but maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe they do play two positions in one game, and then like every couple games or so, we maybe take a look at shifting what those two positions are. So I think there's ways to do win-win, but it all is going to come down to leaning into an uncomfortable conversation and having some uncomfortable eye contact.
Never hurts. Never hurts to have that uncomfortable eye contact. Yeah, we talk about this topic a lot on the pod. I think ultimately it feels like this coach wants to win a game that day. And he is getting the best shortstop to play all 6 innings of every game, the best center fielder, the best pitcher. Ultimately, that's a red flag. It just is. If they are philosophically having to win at all costs, um, that's not your bag. That's not your cup of tea. So I think we've given you some options there, and I thank you for bringing in that question, leading off this pod with that, communicating with coaches and parents that we don't align with philosophically. It's going to happen a lot. I'll tee up a few more topics for down the road. Kids that can't seem to focus. How about the inappropriate toucher or doing inappropriate things in a team setting? How about the kid that is getting zero attention and getting bullied because they've moved from travel ball to rec ball? Just a few topics that we are going to hit today, and these are all questions that you brought in. So thank you very much for that. This episode 97 brought to you by the Coach Ballgame Playbook. We are relaunching on October 28. Put this on your calendar, 10/28, 10/29, 10/30. It's coming up in just a few weeks. We'll go live, me, Flick Money, and the Chopper. This will be our third launch of this. But this is your starter kit. Before you teach X's and O's, before you teach skills of softball or baseball or any sport, you got to dial in the priorities. What is most important? How do you build trust engage, run effective practices, teach love of play. That's the playbook, and we're going live. There'll be an option for a VIP session on the final day, which is the 30th, and we've got Coach Queso and Coach Joy, who were coming up with a nickname as well. They are dialing in all the Kajabi, all the things that need to happen so you can sign up for that. So look out for that on my socials. If you're signed up on my email list, look out for that as well. But this is a no-brainer for every coach and every parent of every sport. The Coach Ballgame playbook. So go get it. I do want to
Coach,
touch on, yeah, go ahead, Flick Money. Anything there?
I, I just wanted to be a stand for. I think Coach Joy has already has a nickname. I mean, could you think of a better Coach Ballgame World nickname than Coach Joy?
Kind of tough, right? There are those
Well,
outliers where it's you can't beat the real name,
you
you
can't.
know, like Butch Husky. How you gonna?
Yeah,
You're just not. You're just gonna call him Butch Husky,
that's right.
Coach Joy, indeed. So that they are dialing in everything on that front. So look out on my socials for all the updates. North Carolina was amazing. My September was full of sandlots in the Midwest, Northeast, Southeast. I did have to cancel the Sewanee, Georgia sandlot with Jeff Francoeur as the hurricane came rolling through. Our thoughts, our prayers are with everybody. It's been devastating, especially in the western part of North Carolina and the eastern part of Tennessee, the Tampa area. I've done sandlots in all of these areas, and I have leagues reaching out saying, hey, our fields are devastated. We don't know if we're going to be able to play next spring. So this is something else to look out for. I'll be updating you on ways to give, ways to help, ways to get all of these communities fences back, dugouts, grass. I mean, it looks like a World War Z video. It is rough out there, worse than you could think. So I want to give a big character salute to all those first responders and all the people that are just flying in to Raleigh or Charlotte and really running headfirst into the fire and helping, bringing clean water. It is Roberto Clemente vibes to a T, and it inspires me big time. So I think my lane specifically, how can we get these little leagues and parks up and running again so they can have a season here in March and April of 2025. So, um, anything on your end there as there's another hurricane on the way, Coach?
Yeah, very few of us will ever be called to do Roberto Clemente level great things, but every one of us can do small things in a great way. So please participate in whatever small way that you can. Find the way that fits best for you and your life. But I know I'm honored to get a chance to contribute in a small way here on Sunday night when we're going to be doing some trivia, doing some Q&A, and chopping it up for the good folks of Western North Carolina.
Absolutely. Um, I, uh, I'm fired up for that as well. Just to raise awareness, and I've even had boots on the ground in upstate New York text me and say, "Hey, our little league team did a fundraiser. Where can we send these funds to?" I've heard a few of those stories, and man, it's like these tragedies are going to happen. And you know what else is inevitable is good people rising to the top, man. And it fires me up. So uh, the Clemente Award is going to be given out pretty soon in the MLB, and I'm excited to see who wins it this year. So do your best Clemente impersonation and get it going because as my friends and boots in those areas have said, it's worse than you think. So all the thoughts and prayers there. Um, I want to shift over to the MLB and talk a little bit about uh, 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 you know the playoffs and what's going on here. So switching gears from serious to a little lighter. What has stood out to you, Flick Money, as you've watched these wild card games and division series unfold?
Well, it's interesting the different how different series take on different personalities. And because I'm so committed to supporting AJ and the Tigers, I'm watching consistent, unbelievable pitching duels because that's the Tigers' MO. They're going to drag you out into the deep water in a one-run game, a 1-0, 0-0 game in the eighth, 2-1, and then they're going to that pitching staff. He's masterful with the pitching changes, and they're going to go, matchup for matchup, and they're going to drag you out in those deep waters. But other series, it is Slugfest City, baby. The Padres and all the excitement that they brought with the Dodgers. You've got other teams that just seem they're just prolific run scorers. The Yankees, obviously, and so it's been really interesting to watch the different personalities, watch the different managers, how they handle it. And it's October. I mean, if this doesn't fire you up, what will?
Yeah, your wood is wet if you can't get fired up for this. And sometimes it's tough to zoom out from your team of choice. My Cubbies are not in it, but my dad grew up in the Cleveland area, huge Cleveland Guardians fan, watches every single game. And yesterday, if you've got rooting interest, that's a heartbreaker, and you're going to be ornery for a couple of hours. But if you can zoom out, it hasn't been better in recent years. The wild card games, those best of threes, um, the just it's got everything, man. It's got
Yeah.
everything. It's
The, the,
it's got home runs. It's got the defense. It has everything, Bill Hader, and I'm just loving it big time.
the,
And
be, the,
the pitchers, the pitching. Come on. I mean,
oh,
as you said, so, Mr. Scooble, somebody told him, "You're not allowed to give up any runs or barely any hits." That guy's
it's
unreal.
it's unreal. He's going to bring you 97, 98 from the left side, four seamers up around your rib cage, just to see what your eyes do with that. And then he throws a changeup that is so dirty that I'm pretty sure even at my peak as a hitter, if he told me I'm throwing you a changeup now, and he did that 100 straight times, I'm not sure I could do anything. Maybe foul off one or two. That thing is dirty. And
Indeed.
the other piece I really loving with the Tigers is, as we go back to the wild card, the karmic the karmic come around for AJ Hinch of getting to coach the Detroit Tigers, who were written off for dead in August. He said they're in a rebuild. He helped rebuild the Astros when he took over the Astros as the manager. They had won 54 games, I think, the year before. And it comes in, they end up winning a World Series. He takes the fall for the cheating scandal, which he had nothing to do with. And here he is in Detroit, going back into Houston, into Jim Crane, I believe that's the owner of the Astros, into his living room. And just the karmic come up, and I mean, it was so rich. You could just cut it with a knife. I loved it. I love all of the stories, and how October brings out the best, and I
Well,
love it.
and I mean, we had dinner with AJ Hinch in Detroit, Michigan, just a few months ago, right after our Sandlot with Kirk Gibson. And I texted Kirk after they won the wild card, and I said, "How about them Tigers?" And he wrote two words: "Very good." And that is right on, spot on. But I have to believe that that dinner we had, having that round table, and all the advice we were giving AJ Hinch, it rocket launched them to the next level. At that moment, I said, AJ, your pitching dialed in, but your hitters, they need to hit more foul balls. And he was on board with that. And look what they've done. They've led baseball in foul balls since that day. And here we are. So you're welcome, AJ. I also love how he was the fall guy in Houston, and I think that's common knowledge by now. Now he got fired because apparently, quote unquote, he didn't have control of the clubhouse, but he tried to stop the nonsense. But it's kind of tough when guys are making way more money than you, and they're doing some stuff. It's tough to calm them down. So just a button up conversation on AJ. You got to be proud of the dude.
Unbelievable. And he is, I've known AJ since we were 18 years old, and he is. You talk about someone who's in flow, doing exactly what they were put on earth to do. He studied psychology at Stanford. He was the Olympic team captain in '96. He has been built for this type of um, steady, committed, confident leadership in a very even keel way that allows people. We keep talking about this. That allows people to be their best. He's not a screamer or a yeller. He doesn't throw water coolers. He figures out each person in his dugout and how to get the best out of them. And then he's highly intelligent when it comes to the strategy, the chess match of baseball as well. And you get that combination, someone who understands people and plays chess well. Whew, you're seeing it. This is his second organization now that he's taken deep runs into the playoffs when people had really left them by the side of the road. So this is a double eye black salute and a leadership salute to my good friend AJ. And may the best team win.
He may be the next guest on this pod. I think that once the run is over and things quiet down, he is a great conversation. But I do think it's the Padres to lose. And Mike Schilt, another incredible manager, name drop salute when I met him. He said, "Hey, ball game, you got to find the key. You got to find each player's key to unlock that bad boy. Different locks for different people." He actually flew to Aruba in the offseason to meet with Xander Bogaerts. He flew to the Dominican Republic to meet with Fernando. He met every single person in person in the offseason, and he wanted to bring this culture of unity. And we've got each other's backs, and when we are on our back, we're going to punch back. And man, I I am interested to see what Bueller can do with that lineup tonight. The Padres are going with their I'm just going to say it, their ace. Mr. King is king, and he is nasty. So, going to be fun, and we'll check back in next week to see how it's all shaken out. But before we get to our 5 questions from our listeners, thank you to those listeners are that are on the Patreon and giving each month a couple of bucks to keep our lights on. We thank you. We would do this for free, but we would also love to do this for not free. And so thank you. Our significant others, thank you.
Teammate
Um,
salute. I'm gonna give you a big teammate salute since
best
you have them.
teammate salute. Put the arm around.
Yep.
And an attaboy for Chopper. He's trying to get here late, but he had to coach a camp this morning. So attaboy to the Chopperooski. We'll hold up the fort. I put this on my Instagram and all the socials, YouTube, hashtag, MySpace, yesterday. If you only had 2 words, coaches, it's a game, and you had 2 words you could use to talk to your batter when they get in the batter's box. What would those 2 words be? We've talked at length on this podcast about not getting too mechanical with our teachings in game to keep it light, keep the vibe like a birthday party. The kids are smart; they already know it's a big moment. And when you shove mechanical into their brain, it's just too much. They go cray cray. So we know we got to keep it simple. We know we got to keep it positive. And I like to go with what friend of the pod Daniel Bard thinks before every pitch. Just one simple positive thought. Maybe that's where his foot lands, or where that release point is, or he's just even further, just looking at the catcher's mitt and looking behind it and going through that catcher's mitt. One simple positive thought. If you had 2 words in game, Flick Money, for a batter, what would you go with?
Uh, My go-to coach is C contact. And that cuts two ways. When they step out and are taking their practice swings between pitches, it's a visualization tool. I want you to see it happening as you're taking your practice swing, but then I want you to, in the game, when we have so many swing thoughts that can get in our head, I just want you to really hone in on obviously seeing the ball and then seeing the ball and bat touch each other. That does a lot for your mechanics, but it really gets you out of brain and back into four-dimensional reality. So C contact is where I go, coach.
It's funny that the analogy for me is in the world of acting. You spend 20 years going to acting classes to learn how to get out of your own head and not act and just be a human being, because the audience will sniff out anything disingenuous. So you want to get kids out of their own head as quickly as you can, and I think you definitely want them on the offensive as opposed to anything defensive. So I posed this question yesterday and I got 500 comments, which were amazing on what would you use. And some of my favorites were smile, compete, be you. I really liked that one. But for me, I like center field. And that has a real connection with C impact or C contact. Because if you are trying to hit it towards center, then a lot of those bad habits, they're going to take care of themselves. You're not going to step out. You're going to be on time. You're going to see impact because you're letting it get a little bit deeper. So that those two words, center field, I think they're magical, and those are the ones I use. But there was some really good ones. Go into the comment section of that post, and there's 500 on Facebook, 500 more on Insta. Really cool stuff. I'm going to do more of those questions, posing questions to you guys, because you're all you're smarter than me, man, and I'm loving it. So um, community building. Um, good stuff. Well, I'm ready to dive into our five topics of the day, and we'll start with fervor and with passion. This first question goes as such. We have a young player on our 8U team. He actually just turned 7, and he's athletic, but has ADHD and can be hard to keep him focused. Any tips to help him stay on track? No doubt about it. You're as a coach, you one of the things that probably knocks you sideways with surprise is, oh, the kid that's not listening like everybody else, or in one way or another has a different way of learning and consuming information. So I'll start with you, Coach Flick Money, on this one. Where do you go with the kid that, whether it be special needs, ADHD, how do you get them to focus?
The first step, I think, mentally for a coach is to recognize this is actually a gift. This is not something to overcome. It's not a symptom to try to cure. This is a brain that's working. It's a neuroatypical, but there's so many gifts that come with it. The energy that they bring. I used to talk to you, Coach Ballgame, when you first started coaching. You had the energy of 50 human beings. Someone with ADHD might have the energy of 60 or 70 human beings. So there's some real, if we can direct that, there's some unbelievable uh, outcomes that we can achieve. Um, they need to feel our affection. They need to feel our unconditional positive regard for them. And if they can feel that warmth, because so many places in life, a person like that, a youngster like that, feels wronged. That, oh, you're doing it wrong. You need to do it different. What's wrong with you? They get that a lot. So we want to be a place, alternatively. Hey, I see your gifts. You got unbelievable energy. I love your enthusiasm. I'm glad you're so excited to be here today, and that fires me up. So now let's direct it. And leadership salute to my mentor, Johnny Mack, who I saw work with the high energy students, we'll call them high energy players. He would make them his assistant. He would say, you're special assistant to Coach Mack today. I'm going to need you. And he would lay out for them tasks, helping pick up balls, helping set up stations, being leader at the front of the line, things that are going to engage that energy so that they stay with you, rather than start working against you. Of course, we have to teach boundaries, but that's going to be a work in progress. You're going to be working with the parents on that when they're 7. It's not all going to be done in a day. So we got to, understand that setting personal boundaries, if they're piggly wiggly, they're talking, they get hands on other kids when they shouldn't, that's going to be a work in progress. But do your best to keep explanations very short when you are pulling the team together. Try to have those little meetings go as short as possible, 20, 30 seconds. If you can do it under a minute, ideal. And then really keep practice moving, keep the drills moving, and engage that enthusiasm and that energy, and realize that ADHD means that they have a superpower. They have ability to hyper focus when they are engaged. So when you see that player hyper focused, when you see that player playing money ball and they are in and they are screaming for their teammates and they are all, then you know that you are engaging that superpower. So if there's great research out there, there's great things to learn from, resources on ADHD, and I would direct you to do some reading if you're really interested. But that's my sort of high level way that I would approach it.
Love that answer. Piggyback on that. If you can sit in on a kindergarten or first grade or second grade class, and you see how teachers deal with this same kind of energy, or these kids that have some sort of as Flicky called it, a gift. Watch how they can handle it, consume that. That's a great way to learn. For me, I think this is the most challenging part of coaching kids. I pride myself on organization and being dialed in, and getting kids to dial in with quiet, uncomfortable eye contact, having my practices and camps run to the second, efficiently. And this throws a curveball. This throws a wrench in my plan. I've learned by watching Flick Money. This is definitely one of his strengths. Is you have to change your expectations. You have to, especially when you bring the whole group together. It's not going to be like you think it should be. Um, so what I've been able to learn is, as a rookie coach, instead of shaming or embarrassing the one kid that's acting out, um, I have learned to, maybe it's by the way I walk to the other side of the team meeting. I I I try and prioritize the kids that are doing good, point them out with a baseball card or an attaboy or an attagirl, and then anytime there is an act out, or a kid is up and walking around or hugging me, I get a lot of those from these types of kids. I just know that, hey, I've been able to flex and pivot into a different place, but this kid's engaged, and they are falling in love with the game as well. I've also learned that a one-on-one, an assistant coach that can be extremely patient, that's number 2 for me. If I can have that one tap this kid on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I got something cool I want to show you," and maybe that's taking a little walk, and finding entertainment one-on-one. And then lastly, small groups. It's really tough if you've got 1 or 2 of these kids that are acting out when you bring the whole group together. But if you're splitting the practices up into small groups, then you've got a chance. And then it's a little bit easier. Instead of a group of 12, you've got a group of 3. It's definitely much easier for you. So I have found these kiddos that are energetic, and have these gifts. I've found them to be gifts, and I've found it to be one of my favorite things to do now. That's over 20 years. So um, for one of the most OCD people I know on a baseball field, that being me, I have learned, well, you got to throw that in the trash, dude. You have got to take a step back and shift. You got to pivot, as they say. So,
Hey, coach, one more
yeah.
dynamite drop in. The other thing is um, using as a way to remind, as a way to set boundaries. Uh, Kids who are hyperactive, their brains almost can't learn if you try to make them sit still. They need the physical movement. It actually engages the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere connect better with movement. So even when you're in a meeting, if it's a high level hyperactivity, let them stand in the back as long as they're not in front of the other kids and causing a distraction, and let them rock back and forth, left to right. Okay, and their brain will actually stay more engaged and be able to take in the information. Also know that someone like this is going to have a hard time maintaining eye contact, because that's that kind of stillness that shuts the brain down. So their eyes might be looking everywhere, but they could still be hyper focused on what you're saying. So it might look a little bit different. We just got to widen our definition. And the other thing is on setting boundaries. This is the exact type of kid, hey, 20 crunches, 5 push-ups, to remind them to keep their hands off other people or whatever. If you do it in a loving way, they'll love you for it, because they want the movement. They either actually do thank you, as long as it's consistently applied with the other kids as well. Send them a lap around the bases, and the whole team chanting and cheering as they were sliding to home, as a reminder. Just try to make sure that you assign it not in an angry way, but just, hey, reminder. Okay, this is how we're going to do it here. So busting out some sit-ups, push-ups. It gets them fit, it keeps that movement going, and it helps their brain expel some of that energy so they can be a little more present with you.
That once I learned that, that was a game changer for me. Just realizing, wait, they're hearing more, they're listening more, consuming more when they're moving. So let's get them in the back, and let them do that, because that's how they're going to learn more. Last thing I'll say on this is your culture is what you tolerate. You've got to build a culture where Benny the Jet is teaching Smalls, and nurturing Smalls, and vice versa. There's no othering. You're not othering the kids that are acting differently. You can't allow that. That's probably the most important thing we'll say on this topic is, nurturing these kids and letting them know that in life, you're gonna meet different types of people, and you're gonna have different types of bosses and different types of teammates. And how can you create a unit on that? So be sensitive to any picking on, bullying. They're different. Let's leave them out of our group. You can't do that. Just listen to my Jim Abbott story. He was picked on because he looked different, and thankfully he was able to use that to inspire him to work even harder, and became one of the best to ever throw the baseball. Hey, Coach, question 2. I have a newly formed 13U travel team. Half the team is focused and willing to work, while the other half is just there to horseplay and joke around. A couple of the jokesters are also the more talented players. I've tried empowering the hardworking ones by letting them lead warm-ups, and I do my best to separate the jokesters from each other. How can I get buy-in from the jokesters to get them to at least act like they want to put in the work? I don't want to come across as overbearing, but in most cases, they only respond to negative discipline rather than being uplifted, or being positive. I want to prepare them for high school. That's next up for them, and hopefully beyond. So I emphasize the seriousness behind putting in the work, but I don't want to discourage them from playing either. Finding that balance. Your insight is appreciated. Very well written out and thought question here. This is 13U. I've noticed as they get into that 13-year-old age, a little too cool for school sets in, and it's a little more difficult to get them to take things seriously or have energy. They just want to James Dean it, and be cool. So, Flick Money, what do you got?
That doesn't come from nowhere, coach. That's a biological, there's a biological basis for that. As puberty starts, they're beginning the process of pushing away from the adults. That's what allows them emotionally to develop enough sense of maturity and independence down the road to actually go out and leave the home, leave mom's basement, stop eating her Fruity Pebbles, and go and create a life for themselves. Just as a side note, hashtag science, the reason for that is when we used to live in small clans, you didn't want to procreate, you didn't want to start a family with someone in your clan because you were likely related to them. And so the need to push away and go literally leave your clan meant that you were going to widen the gene pool, very important, so you didn't inbreed. So this all comes from a biological basis. They're starting the push away process, and their friends become more important to them than the adults because they're going to lean on those friends as they're 19, 20, 24, 28. Those friends become a more critical part of their world. So this is natural. So number one, it's not a reflection of you, what you're doing or you're not doing. Don't take it personal. Strategically, how do I do this in practices? What I heard you say is that you've been giving leadership to the kids who are doing it right. But one of the things that I found is that even though they're going to act like they don't care, the kids also want to be recognized. They still want to be recognized. The kids who are the jokesters who act like they don't care. So give them opportunities for leadership. Have them demonstrate a drill. Especially the ones who have some proficiency at baseball, have them demonstrate, make them the leaders of a drill. Now you might fear, oh, they're going to take the whole thing sideways, but honestly, what I found is they actually rise. Typically, they'll rise to the level of your expectation. So if you see them as leaders, you put them in places where they can be successful, you're going to get more buy-in in that specific drill or in that practice. The other thing is to give them outlets to be creative and be funny. Bring in some of what they're talking about, incorporate some of those things, help them build the culture because there should be fun and there should be joy. Humor can be a part of it. And so, one of the greatest gifts I had was that I became a student of youth culture. Now, there's some things they're never going to share with you. They're not going to tell you really where some of this stuff comes from, but just even if it's just some of the lingo, a few of the YouTube creators and TikTok creators and some of the things that they're into right now, if you can become a student of that and build relationships with those guys individually, obviously, if they're pushing away, it's not going to be easy, but try to bring them in as much as possible.
Yep. I love every single bit of that. As Dave Roberts told me, praise loudly, constructively criticize quietly. And this is something, let's call it a pet peeve of mine, is when that 13-year-old too cool for school, not doing exactly as I ask, listen on the first time thing goes. It definitely hurts my feelings. But I have learned that lashing out, acting in anger, that just pushes them even further away. So what I try and look for is the small wins in this category. The jokester that does come over and give a fist bump or show up a few minutes early for a batting practice, man, I'm going to praise that loudly. I'm going to bring that kid up, and that kid's going to lead stretching. That kid is going to do an attaboy challenge with one of the kids that has been dialed in all year long. I think you want to stay away from separating the team into halves. You've got the talented jokesters over here. You've got the clique that's doing it right and listening on the first time over here. How can you bring those two together? I think you've got to, as Coach Flicky said, it, don't think that this is weakness. Don't think that this is just you just letting the kids get away with any of this lack of effort. No, I just think for me, when I did this wrong, I was lazy and I didn't look for the small wins. I just immediately cut it off and as I just said, othered them. I othered them into that, oh, that they're not driven category. So, like Flicky said, they're looking for some attention. So if you can find a small win and bring them up for a game ball or an attaboy, I think that can be huge. So I think as a newcomer, I used to think praising loudly and constructively criticizing quietly when it comes to disrespect, that's weakness. I've learned that that's a strength because you've gotten to know these kids, their love language is not getting screamed at for most of them. Now, there are a few that may respond to firm, but I don't know any 13-year-old that responds to um, shame or embarrassment. Uh, uh, I haven't found that kid. So, yeah,
And
anything to button up that one.
just to remind you, as a reformed class clown myself, I promise you, I was hearing in other places in my life that I was doing it wrong plenty. So that's some to some degree that personality type, or at least that it's really a coping mechanism that sort of it's yes, it's pushing away, yes, it's biological, that's part of it, and for some kids, it's also a reaction to being told, you know, that they're messing up a lot, and so they just start clowning on things because it's an easier way emotionally to deal with it, and so you won't be the only voice in their life who's offering that perspective. So let's try to be the voice in their life that's offering all of you is welcome here. Yes, I'm going to expect high level of effort from you, and I'm going to expect a high level of focus, but I'm also going to give some, and we're going to incorporate your gifts. We're going to incorporate some humor. We're going to offer opportunities for rest. Keep in mind, 13 and 14-year-olds, they're going, puberty is the most change a human goes through outside of between years 0 and 2. It's a rapid change. So they literally are tired more. They do need more sleep. They are going to give you that. It's not that they're lazy. The cells in their body are going crazy. And so it is exhausting to be them at that stage. So finding ways to work with them is the win here.
Yeah, great question. Find that balance. Win small, and you'll win big. Question number 3. This is 10U fall baseball, and this is a rec team. How do we handle the kid who is the inappropriate toucher? I say it a lot, and especially to the younger kids, eyes only. I try and teach the do's, not the don'ts. Instead of don't touch, I'll say eyes only. But you've got the inappropriate toucher, putting hands on teammates, shoving, pushing, tackling, and even pulling hair. The extremely hard to coach 11 kids when there's one wildly inappropriate mongoose on the loose. The attentive kids tell me after practice they've been dealing with all these little things that add up to a lot of distraction and frustration from this one teammate. The parents say they are trying not to be helicopters and want me to go drill sergeant on them, on this child if he acts out. But I'm not the drill sergeant kind of guy. I stay calm. It's what I really strive for in practices and games. If I see him shoving others, I break it up and tell him it's inappropriate and needs to keep personal space. But so far, just a few practices into the fall, it's already wearing on the others. So lots of inappropriate behavior, not just with touching hands, but just different things that are becoming frustrating for the rest of the group. I've thought about making him a drill leader that stays with me the whole practice. And honestly, this makes me want to take my boys out of rec and take our league select to be a full-time travel ball coach. So that this is a great, honest question from this coach. The league needs our players and families and coaches, but being a community behavior therapist for 1 to 3 kids each rec season is wearing on me and my kids' experience. So, man, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. Where do you go first with this one, Flick?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would just say thank you, Coach, for coaching this coach who sent in this question. Thank you for being a leader in your community, and I understand, and I just want to empathize. I understand it's difficult, and it can feel really wearing. You have a vision. You want to have this. You want to have the Sandlot experience where the team all gels, and here's kids saying after practice, "Hey, this is a grind. This is uncomfortable. Kids' hands are, over and over and over. You're having to redirect them." I totally get that. And I would just say to you that you can do that. You can go start a travel ball team. And then what happens to this child? Then where does this child go? This child is still going to be who they are. They're still going to be this person. moving around in your community, and they're going to grow up to be a member of your community, an adult member of your community. I would say, if not us, who? And if not now, when? So let's talk about strategies. Uh, Coach Ballgame sets up practices with these small orange cones. Now, I know that someone who has that kind of hyperactive lack of boundaries, they're going to move right past that cone. They're not going to. That's not even going to. That's not going to visually tether them to one place when you set up lines and things. However, what about a dozen hula hoops? If you had a dozen hula hoops and every time you set up a new drill, grab your hula hoop and your glove, bring it to the outfield, and you set up hula hoop, you have to stay in your hula hoop. The consequence of people who don't stay in the hula hoop, and it's a team wide policy, is you get to do you get to do a bear crawl from second base to the center field fence and back, right? And you make it fun. It doesn't have to be punitive. It doesn't have to be angry. It's just like, this is what we're doing. And, you can demonstrate it and show how hard it is to do a bear crawl, and, let your refrigerator repairman jeans fall down a little bit, and then they can laugh at you. But just I would use a visual tool like a hula hoop everywhere you go to set up lines, because this youngster really is going to need a stronger sense visually of boundaries to attach to. And then the other thing is, I would spend some time, maybe had take 10 minutes, 20 minutes one day, sit in a circle inside your hula hoop, set up, and let's have a team conversation. One talking stick, it can be a baseball or a sliding mitt, and let that student hear, how does it make you feel when our boundaries are breached. And sometimes kids teaching kids is the most powerful line. I would just say, try to do it in a way that is loving. Hey, we're a family here. I've heard some things from some players that they feel like this is they don't feel that their boundaries are being respected, and it doesn't make them feel good. So I want to give everyone an opportunity who would like to share, what's it feel like for them, and see if we can do it in a caring way, but give the youngster an opportunity to hear from his teammates what this feels like and what this is like, and how it might create more separation from this player, because I promise you what he wants is connection. That physicality is seeking connection, but he doesn't maybe realize that it's actually pushing people away. So sometimes kids are the most powerful teachers for that lesson.
And I'll double down on that. Yeah, just sitting everybody down and having a chat. Obviously, keeping uh, close ears and eyes on that there is no shaming or embarrassing going on, but just honesty. I'm interested to see, like, where have the small wins been? Where has this child consumed what you've been asking to do and actually improved at it? We talk about love language a lot. Do they respond to the gifts, the words of affirmation? Do they respond to that one assistant coach who makes them laugh, or just goes on walks with them? I immediately my brain goes to, I can't give up on this. Um, but I do need a one-on-one. I do need a Coach Flicky that can be there when these boundaries get crossed, and there can be a consequence where it's just that assistant coach and the child, and they're going to the bleachers, and maybe they're sitting and they're talking about boundaries, or they're talking about the why. Why do they need to touch other people, or why do they need to lick this fence, and what's underneath all of that? And then you can still run a practice with the other 10 kids while that's going on. But I totally get how you want to just give up on this and go straight travel ball, where you're probably not going to have the kid with autism, ADHD, special needs, whatever it might be. It just everybody's on the same page. But again, uh, who's then, if not you, who's gonna jump in there? So I get it. Really difficult situation, but I do think there's a way to bring it both, to make it a both and not just a either or. Um, and I would say that one-on-one might help you big time, and I double down on the conversation with the kids because man, that's a great conversation to have where not only are you allowing these kids to be honest and share their feelings to somebody's face with dignity instead of behind their back, but you're also allowing this child to maybe gain some more tools, and maybe that is their love language. Maybe that is how they're going to respond, is just by listening to honesty from a teammate, from somebody their own age. So, um,
Last thing, Coach, I want to
yeah,
drop in on is just say, this is one of those when Coach Ballgame's talking about small wins, it's going to sound inane to you, but sometimes you have to give someone a card and say, "Great job keeping your hands to yourself for the last 30 seconds." Like, we had to break it down into the smallest chunks. The brain optimally for kids learns when they get 5 positives for every one constructive criticism. Great job keeping your hands to yourself. Uh, uh, Thank you for staying in line in your own position for as I set up this drill. Great job getting your shoes on today. Like celebrating and rewarding the decision, the positives, and then they'll slowly. It's going to be a slower growth for them. It sounds like, but it will happen. And I just want to again. I'm going to finish where we started. Thank you for coaching, and thank you for being a leader in your community. This is important work.
yeah, nobody said this coaching thing would be easy. I would argue it might be one of the most difficult things you ever try to do. But with that, the most important job you ever do, changing these lives, not only changing this kid to learn boundaries, but the other 11, uh, teaching them about patience, inclusivity, and honesty, just speaking their feelings to somebody else in a way of dignity, where we can have hard conversations, but it doesn't have to get hostile. I think that's a great tool to
Yeah,
teach
and
kids.
and also check in with the parents. There are legitimate diagnoses that have impulse control as a part of the profile of a certain mental health disorder. They may have already had the child screened. It could just be ADHD. It could just be they're an only child with really poor boundaries. It's hard to know based on the information you sent, but I would say just make sure. I know that it sounds like the parents say go drill sergeant, but I would just ask them, have they ever seen a mental health professional? Have they talked to anyone? Do you have any kind of more information that you can provide so that you can do a little research and maybe be helpful? And if they haven't, maybe it's a good gentle nudge, like, hey, maybe this might be a good time to get some screening done, because I know with a lot of these things, the earlier you intervene, the more productive they can lead absolutely normal lives. If there is a brain-based issue, they can go on and learn these skills and learn how to work with it. And the sooner you get started, the better. So it might be a good background conversation to have.
Yeah, for this coach, I mean, the way you stated this question, it sounds like you care about this human being and this family. So I think the way you communicate that, they'll hear it. Absolutely. So good on you, coach. Um, Question number 4. My son is 12 and back to playing rec ball this year. We spent last year on a travel team, and by the end of the spring season, he had become the outcast, forgotten right fielder. The environment the coaches created had also become very rigid, lots of yelling, and what were you thinking type of comments. I'm sure you've heard that tone. What were you thinking? My son is now a leader on his rec team and is building his confidence back. So we are super happy with the decision, and so is he. However, some of his former teammates are telling other boys at school that my son couldn't take it on the travel team. And many of the boys, even some that don't even play baseball, pick on him for quitting. I love on him and tell him to try not to listen and to hang out with other kids, but I feel I'm missing the mark. Any advice on how to help him through? Sixth grade is tough. Thanks in advance. Flick money. We've got a situation of bullying, um, and I don't like it. What do you got?
Yeah, well, we got the tricky part with sixth grade boys is with sixth grade humans is that this is where they really start to middle school. That early first year of middle school is where stratification starts. We see it in the adult world. We stratify by socioeconomic class, by are we neurotypical or not typical. There's all kinds of ways we separate ourselves from each other. This begins at about 11, 12 years old, where they really, you can even see it a little earlier, but middle school is where it hits hard. So unfortunately, this is, it just happens to be about baseball in this instance. But if it's not about baseball, it's about what you're wearing. If it's not about what you're wearing, it's what neighborhood you live in, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little bit part of that experience. And I'm sorry that it's happening to your son in a way that feels painful for him. Um, the best thing that I would say to him is simply look him in the eye and say, it's more fun. I did your thing. It wasn't fun. You can say what you want about it. If you want to play that, great. I support you guys, but I'm having a lot more fun doing what I'm doing. And for me, that's I'm 12 years old. That's what I'm about having a good time. I'm here for a good time, not for a long time,
Mhm.
and try to just flip it back on them. But what do you got, Coach? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, my thoughts immediately go to the coach that allowed this to happen, and kids, 12, 13-year-olds, they still treat what their heroes, dads, coaches, whatever they do, positive or negative, they treat it as creed. So they've noticed that this coach kind of outcasts this one kid, and so the kids follow suit, and they're like, "Oh, I'm more talented than him, more experienced. Let's other this kid," and it has led to bullying because even though uh, this dad and this son did the correct thing by jumping ship, running for the hills. It's a toxic environment. Let's go do something where it's going to build this human up. There's still side effects going on from this culture that this coach created. So I'll speak to all coaches first. Uh, Take note, right? The ripple effect is real. The things you overlook are real. There was a eighth grader in my hometown, went to the middle school that I went to, because of bullying, ended his own life. This is eighth grade. So this is life or death. This is a life or death question. And for all the coaches out there, the assistant coaches, the parents on that team, when you sniff this out, when you sniff out this outcasting or this bullying, just know it could be life or death. And as Chop always says, your culture is what you tolerate. Don't tolerate it. Don't allow it. Um, when you don't allow that culture, the kids will start to treat that as creed, and they will act differently at school. That's what a coach is really trying to do, is make sure these kids become better students, better humans, and make better decisions when they're not on a baseball field. So um, that's for all the coaches out there. Specifically for this dad, what to say to this son? I would have him listen to the Jim Abbott story and the Daniel Navas story. And I've got both of those posted on my Instagram. And honestly, if you need to, Dad, have him call me, or call Coach Flicky, and I'll have a chat with this kid face to face, because what needs to happen is this kid needs to be told by somebody he respects that those kids are saying those things because they don't like themselves. They are insecure and they are sad, and they're trying to throw shade on you to drag you into their sad bowl of soup. That's the definition of a bully. So I'm happy to be that guy to look at that kid in the eyes and tell him that. It could save a life. You never know. So, um, man, I'm pretty hot and fired up here, Coach. Help me out.
Well, I was just going to say, big perspective. uh, the natural emotional intelligence of males, we're not nearly as dialed in to our emotions and feelings as females are. We're not inherent. We have to learn how to be nurturing. But what we are really good at is challenging each other. That competitive, challenging each other, pushing each other to be better. That's where a lot of our inherent emotional development gifts are. That's how we help each other mature. The problem is, in this case, and in cases of bullying, is that it's not just challenging someone, it's demeaning someone, right? So if it was his buddy saying, hey, I'm going to push you to, let's work harder. Let's go have a face-to-face conversation with that coach, or let's go join rec ball. Let's do something, and then let's get better. And then we can go show those guys that we improved in this other environment. That would be a healthy way of that kind of pushing and challenging. I don't want to take that away, because some of the ribbing and things that happens between friends is a form of that pushing. But this isn't a friend thing. You can tell this is a demeaning thing. This is an othering and isolating someone and trying to demean them. That's what makes it bullying, and that's what makes it so damaging. Um, and so, yeah, just to the dad, I would say you're doing the exact right thing, but we just need to call it what it is. And I love Coach Ballgames. Don't jump into their bowl of sad soup with them. If you get into it with them, they've got you. So you really have to become Stonewall Jackson, and just stonewall it, And I know it's tough to do when you're 12 because the feelings are big. Um, but eventually, when they realize they're not going to get the reaction out of you, they get bored and they'll move on to the next thing.
Yep. Um, Man, it can be hard to explain to a 12-year-old that hurt people. It's like, man, that kid shouldn't have to fully understand that at that age. But um, I think this is an important message, that young man can get there. He can learn how to stonewall it, and he can, like Jim Abbott, look at that newspaper that said this kid has no chance. He's only got one hand. Throw that newspaper in the trash and say, oh, that has nothing to do with me. Other people's opinion of me has nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter. Um, Hard to do for a 12-year-old who maybe looks up to these kids that are really good players or wants to be their friend. Um, it's a tough one, but I uh, I applaud you for being vulnerable enough to ask this question. I and I'm serious. Do reach out if you need a phone call from me or Coach Flicky, or both in this situation. Anything to button up that one? That's a serious topic.
No, I think you nailed it, Coach, and I can't imagine a better resource for them than jumping on a FaceTime call with you and getting fired up. Maybe you can even reach out to Coach Jim Abbott. He might be willing to jump on a call with you too. It'd be pretty amazing.
That has happened before. He is that nice of a guy. Um, the only way to segue from that is with a dynamite testimonial to close out our show today. For those of you sending in questions, we've got it queued up. We will answer lots of questions this coming Sunday on an Instagram Live, a Q&A, kind of a warm up for our Coach Ballgame playbook launch on October 28th. But I wanted to read this. Pretty cool. About 5 episodes ago, we had an episode called "Did We Just Save Little League?" Where we were talking about how movement needs to be prioritized, more balls need to be put in play for kids to fall in love with the game. I think two reasons why kids quit: they get hit by a pitch because pitchers aren't ready to pitch yet, or it's boring because there's nothing but wild pitches and stolen bases. So um, this is from a listener in Dresden, Ohio. I'm sliding into the DMs with an episode 89 implementation report. I'm the president director of the Tri-Valley Youth Baseball League here in Dresden, Ohio. Each spring season, we have nearly 400 kids participate in baseball, from T-ball through 12U. As we continue to strive to bring a better baseball experience to our community and develop young players for success on and off the field, we have implemented a few of the suggestions offered in episode 89. Sidebar, if you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to that episode. We give lots of ideas on how to create more movement and fun in Little League and softball, baseball, all of it. Traditionally, fall baseball here in Dresden puts an extra emphasis on development and experience, as the fall season often serves as a transition season for younger players who are moving to new age divisions in the spring. With that transition, in years past, it has made gameplay and the general baseball experience rival the excitement one has rival the excitement one has when on hold with an insurance company customer support phone line. You know, the never-ending loops of smooth jazz while your ear gets sweaty. I can count on one hand how many 10U games I saw complete a full 6 innings this past spring. After listening to episode 89, I took some notes, presented the following rules and play adjustments to our division for the fall season. 1, maximum of 6 batters per inning. 2, maximum 2 innings pitched per pitcher. 3, a 1-and-1 quick count for each batter. Start them off with a 1-and-1 count. Number 4, mandatory walk-up music. I've found in our youth league this really relaxes the kids and encourages them to have fun and do a bit of dancing. 5, team moms coach in the 3rd inning. This has really forced our coaches not to take things too seriously. Number 6, in the 4th inning, all team grandmas in attendance must be in the dugout to provide maximum hype. Number 7, each game is finished with a gathering of both teams in the outfield. Kids are then instructed to offer an attaboy or an attagirl to one of their opponents for a display of effort, attitude, and toughness. EAT, EAT. 3 weeks into the fall season and the results are in. Folks love it, and the kids are having a blast. Games are going a complete 6 innings, and the fun factor's through the roof. Kids are falling in love with the game, and coaches are relaxed, focused not on winning, but on skill and character development. Thank you all for having the conversation. Great things are happening here in rural Ohio. How about that, Coach?
Wow, I just got chills.
Yeah.
Because we were having that conversation. I would talk to you and Chop about anything from baseball cards to male body spray. I mean, I would talk to you guys about anything. So we're having a great time. And as we were talking about that, it never occurred to me that someone out there, some visionary, would actually try it. I love it. I just got chills. Thank you for your creativity. Thank you for your support. And really, thank you for your feedback because it's nice to remember that there are people on the other end of these conversations.
Man, you don't know until you know. And people don't think something exists until they see it. So give it to them one time. Let them see it. Let them see a grandma come in the 4th inning and hype up the dugout. Let's see the moms come out there and coach 3rd and 1st base while the dads go have a glass of milk or go sell some snacks at the snack shack. This is not life or death here. This is not win at all costs here. This is development off the field more than on the field. So good on you. I'm with you, man. We're here chatting face to face, and sometimes I forget. Wait, there's 1,000 people listening to this thing, and they have their own ideas based off what we chat about. So, man, we're doing something right, Coach.
That's right. I love it. And it reminds me of listening to walk up music, getting the grandmas involved. It reminds me of my trips to the Dominican Republic. There is music playing everywhere in the Dominican Republic. I was in line for an ice cream at a shack on the side of a dirt road in outside of San Pedro, and they were playing salsa music at 10:30 in the morning, and the whole line, people are dancing with people they didn't even know, turning, dancing, having a great time. Meanwhile, there's an incredible Sandlot baseball game going on. No adults organizing it. Kids playing. Guess what? Kids were playing all the positions. Okay, and their chances are they're going to take your kids' minor league and big league spot anyway. So just relax, everyone. Let's all just have a great time. Let's play some ball. Let's get the grandmas in the dugout. Let's get some dance parties going. This is the way to do it, Coach.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I know a lot of little leagues, they have freedom to change up the rules and do the eye test. If you're noticing things are dragging, change it up. Get a coach out there flipping side toss, get more balls in play. Wow. We got to go creativity salute for this coach with a paintbrush. That's creativity salute. Thank you guys. This one ran a little long and I'm glad it did. We needed to hit some of these topics, some light, some heavy, but that's baseball and that's softball and that's life. So, Flick Money, great to see you, brother. Let's do it again next week.
Coach, just a reminder, you can't flog a dead horse, but then again, Hercules doesn't need much of an opening to deliver the goods.